Hello and welcome to a review of The Wheel of Time Season 1 Episode 7. This review is by somebody who has read the books but who is not a fan of the TV show. And I think it continues, as you can probably tell by the thumbnail, to be awful, and I will attempt here to explain why I think so. There will be spoilers, or at least there could be spoilers, so you have been warned. If you're afraid of spoilers, you do not want to continue listening to this. Okay, we're going to jump right into it. The episode opens with a heavily pregnant Aiel fighter who is clearly on the slopes of Dragonmount. It will become obvious if you're a book reader. It'll be probably obvious to you already that this is Rand's birth mother. And she is going to be engaged in a very frantic fight with multiple opponents while actually being in labor pains. She's actually beginning to give birth, but this doesn't stop her murdering several enemy soldiers, even 3 at a time. For anybody who's ever even visited reality, this is completely absurd, and this is just one more example of where the showrunners are hacks and incompetents, because it was totally unnecessary. We don't actually know from the books. There's no explanation of why exactly a pregnant woman, pregnant maiden of the spear, was on the slopes of Dragonmount, why she would go into battle in that condition. This is never explained as far as I know in the books. There is no need for the show to actually show this particular woman doing the fighting. All they would have had to have done was have her there in labor pains and all of that. She could be mortally wounded as well if you like, and just have a different maiden of the spear doing the fighting. That would have been perfectly fine. But nope, that's not good enough. We have to have the pregnant woman herself doing the fighting. It looks ridiculous, it is ridiculous, and it was totally unnecessary. One of the things about the Aiel is that the Maidens of the Spear, they're a feminist dream, right? They're completely accepted as one of the warrior societies. They're treated as equals to the men. They're just as good in combat. There's no real distinction. The Aiel make no distinction between a Maiden of the Spear and one of the male warriors. They're treated exactly the same. So I actually have no idea why they wouldn't just make use of that rather than have this absurd scene. But, as I say, the showrunners are incompetent hacks. The fight choreography itself is pretty bad, as usual. It's just typical of this kind of show. But for all that, it was flashy, it was exciting, it was fine. The fight itself was fine. It has all the same tropes that we see in most fantasy television programs. Armor is worthless. I don't know why people wear it. It's purely decorative. It never stops any weapons. So wearing it is completely pointless. And people are routinely attacking the air near the character who's going to be doing the killing. I think it's just lazy choreography, really. I think you could have a very well choreographed fight that's very good and exciting. But that's okay. For the purposes of it here, of showing this, the Maiden of the Spear and how deadly the Aiel are and all that, it works just fine. Our brave heroine in this fight is beset by multiple enemy soldiers who she dispatches generally with ease. If it wasn't for the whole pregnancy thing, she would have absolutely slaughtered them all, no problem. But that whole going into labor thing is hampering her a little bit. So she actually gets stabbed, and we assume this is a mortal wound. And as she begins to give birth, another soldier turns up with a heron mark blade pointed at her. And of course, if you read the books, you'll already know that it's Tam. Tam, incidentally, is the one character that so far in this series hasn't had his character fed through a wood chipper. This was probably done so that people who haven't read the books will later on find out that this was Tam, and this will give them the hint that this is this is Rand's origin. Okay, that's fine. So from there we move on to the Ways, and we meet up with the characters where we left them the last time. They're all discussing the fact that Matt's been left behind, and Loyal gives an explanation as to why they can't just open the gate again, and this is because apparently channeling in the Ways attracts Machin Shin, the black wind or whatever it's called. I can't remember exactly, and this would be very bad. Although we'll see later on in the show, not as bad as it would have been in the books. I'm not sure if it was that the writers were just terrible, or if actually the Machin Shin was whispering to me, because the dialogue was just so awful in this section coming up here. Moraine says to Rand that he knows about the darkness in Matt better than anybody. But it's like, oh, what darkness? What are we talking about? It's like, they're making Matt out to just be inherently bad. Lovely. We also get the Ogier says something really stupid as well, where he says that Moraine is moving fast and the Ogier aren't known for their speed. This is quite a change from the books, where I think Loyal was actually able to outrun most horses. So he wasn't slow. He's slow in how he explains things in his speech. He's not an ent, by the way. I know how you might think that he is. He's a nature type creature who takes forever to say anything, and they're gigantic and all that. So yeah, I know you might be thinking that did Jordan rip off the ents, but no, because the Ogier and ent don't sound anything alike. I should say as well, by the way, that I have absolutely no problem with authors borrowing ideas and concepts from other works. It's perfectly fine. As the old saying goes, there's nothing new under the sun. Everybody's influenced and borrowing from all over the place. As long as they make good use of it and it's not too transparent or rip off, I'm fine with it. Okay, so in this conversation at the gateway to the ways, we have Rand and Egwene discussing Matt staying behind. And Egwene basically says he left us, and Rand is like, you don't believe that, do you? And it's like, well, he kind of did. He chose to stay behind. That is the equivalent of leaving them in this situation. So Egwene is completely right on this one. I don't know what Rand is talking about. Don't know what the writers think Rand is talking about. And then we have Nynaeve, who seems close to tears, saying that when it's all over, she's going to find him, and she promises that. Not very Nynaeve like. The Nynaeve of the books would be absolutely furious with Moraine's refusal to open the gate, because she doesn't know at this point yet that, as the Ogier is going to explain, they can't open the gate because it will attract the Machin Shin, which again they don't know anything about that yet. So none of the characters are really being themselves here. It's all a bit weird, and they're not paying much attention to the events that have transpired around them apparently, or they've just become instantly irrational. Okay, so we hear a conversation then, and this one is particularly disturbing. It's a conversation between Lan and Moraine. And Lan is asking the obvious question, but what if Matt's actually the Dragon Reborn? Because according to the TV series, they're going to actually go and defeat the Dark One now with the Dragon Reborn's help. And Moraine says, "Oh no, he's got darkness in him. If you know, even if he was the Dragon Reborn, she wouldn't let him anywhere near the Dark One because she knows what choice he would make." It's like, where is this darkness coming from? I thought she cured him of the Shadar Logoth dagger. So he's just evil. What? He's just a petty mercenary now who would turn to the dark side, basically. Where is this coming from? And this is not Matt. This is an assassination of his character. Don't know why they're doing it. Totally unnecessary. The other thing is, she says that she wouldn't let Matt anywhere near the Dark One, yet she was bringing him to the Dark One. It was his decision, as she herself says, not two lines of dialogue earlier. He made his choice. She was choosing to bring him, and then she's like, I wouldn't let him anywhere near. You were 2 minutes ago. Again, either Moraine has become incredibly dense in the last 2 minutes, or the writers are crap hacks. And just to make it absolutely clear that the darkness she's talking about is in Matt, that it's not the Shadar Logoth dagger. She's saying he was drawn to the dagger because of the darkness, and the dagger was feeding on him as much as he was on it. Who is this character? Who is he? He's stolen Matt's name, but that's about the only similarity he has to the book character at this point. Okay, so the ways themselves are depicted decently. It's pitch black in there. You can't really see anything. They're not quite as they were in the books. It's much more claustrophobic and cramped than it was in the books. But it's fine. It's a perfectly good representation of the ways, I think, for the purposes of the TV show. But as we move along here, we have Lan chit-chatting with Nynaeve while Moraine leads the group. So again, I don't know who this person is who stole Lan's name, but it isn't Lan. That's just, there's no way he'd be hanging back in the middle of the group while Moraine scouts out ahead. So just again, they're just not really sticking to the characters being who they are. Again, I can forgive some of this because it's a TV show. They want to get some certain points of dialogue in and all that, though frankly the chit chat didn't have anything particularly important in it. Loial comes across, or they come across, a defaced guide stone in the ways, which is it's basically like a signpost in the ways, and it's been defaced. We have a kind of stupid conversation then later on between Lan and Moraine about this, where Lan, confused about how time and space operate, thinks that something is following them. So the thing that's following them in the ways, which as they're depicted are basically single file pathways in pitch darkness, is following them, but somehow to face the guiding stone ahead of them. Okay, fair enough. We'll let it go. There was one I did enjoy one line of dialogue here where Loyal mentions that he can still read the guiding, but he's asking for their patience, and Rand basically says, "Jesus, if he's asking for patience, we're going to be here a while." So Moraine, obviously picking up on the same thing, basically tells him to make camp for a while. Everything seems to be all hunky dory between Rand and Egwene again, as we see them snuggling up to each other while they wait, and we get a kind of a look from Perrin, which at the time I assumed was just him kind of, it made him think of his wife that he'd murdered. I assumed that's what it was. Oh, but we find out later on it's not that at all. So our characters sit around for a while until later on a sleeping Egwene wakes up to hear whistling. And interestingly, Lan is totally oblivious to this. So again, I don't know who this guy is, but he's just not paying much attention. And she wakes up and a Trolloc appears out of nowhere. It literally kind of comes over. It looks like it's coming over the edge of the ways, which it's immediately knocked back over by channeling. And we see it plummet to its death into the thin air from which it miraculously appeared a moment earlier. Okay, fine. This is just a quick throwaway setup. So there's Trollocs in the ways. So this is a way to tell us that. And it's a setup for something a little later on. So after much surprise about the Trollocs being in the Waygate, being in the ways, we hear Egwene apologize for channeling because Perrin notices it's getting colder. This is apparently the Black Wind on its way. So Egwene is under the impression that she's channeled here, which is interesting because later on it turns out she didn't. So I'm not sure how she can be confused about that. But okay, it's generally not something you can mistake. But we'll let it go. She's a novice at this channeling business, so maybe she doesn't. Maybe she tried to and whatever. But oh no, here comes the Black Wind, and Moraine basically tells him it will talk to you. And it seems that in the television series, that's exactly what it will do. The Black Wind is basically, it's a little bit unpleasant. It says mean things. That's it. Now, in the books, the Black Wind would have torn you apart, turned you inside out, delighted in your agony and shrieks, and that's what it was after. And it would whisper this to you as it approaches, that it can't wait to delight in your agony and screaming. So it was a little bit more malevolent in the books. Now it's basically just a bit mean, and it's going to say some mean things to you, and it'll hurt your feelings. The show is made by the woke, so I'm pretty sure they consider that violence. So after some panicked flight, they're on the way to the Faldara Waygate because it's closer and they just need to escape quickly before their feelings get hurt. And we hear Mashinshin speaking to them, and it's telling them basically virtually everything it says is true as far as I can tell. This is where we get to see what Perrin's big issue is, other than the fact that he killed his wife, because obviously that's not drama enough. There has to be more to it. And it turns out he loves another woman. And this, of course, contextualizes his big scowl when he saw Rand and Egwene cuddling up to each other. And yes, if you're wondering, surely they're not going to turn this into some sort of young adult drama. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the showrunners are hacks. So while Moraine is busy doing the ballet dance that constitutes her channeling to open the waygates again, I mean, she's literally pirouetting around while channeling. So stupid, but anyway, we'll ignore that again. We see Nynaeve demonstrating once again that she has power over 9,000 as she holds off Machin without any real weaves. She just emanates power. She's just awesome. It's amazing. It would be nice to see her actually doing some weaves at some point, but we won't. We'll just, that'll come later, I'm sure. So after much ado, our brave heroes escape through the Waygate into the desert that is Faldara? What? This is a complete change from the books. Faldara is in a kind of forested, snowy northern region, but now it's basically a barren, rocky desert. Don't know why. It's not the location we needed. It was the location we had. Faldara is also supposed to be a city, but here it just looks like a fairly large castle. Well, okay. Anyway, we won't worry too much about this. I know budget is always an issue with shows like this, so we'll forgive them. We'll trot along and see what's going on in Faldara. When they enter Faldara, we're met with who I presume is Uno with the eye patch. I think it was Uno had the eye patch, and he was legendarily foul-mouthed, but given that absolutely everybody in the show is foul-mouthed now, the best he can manage is he calls him a bastard or something like that. It's pretty weak. But anyway, this is they get ushered into the throne room, and we meet Agelmar. And Agelmar actually looks somewhat similar to what you might expect Agelmar to look like. At least he's a borderlander, so he has a kind of an Asian look, which is good because given the casting so far in the show, he could have been a blonde 8-year-old girl. But anyway, he sits down and immediately begins to mansplain to Moraine what she's doing there. He's rude, condescending, snide, none of the things that Agelmar in the book is, who was incredibly polite and welcoming to the Aes Sedai, incredibly respectful. Not this Agelmar, but it's okay because his mansplaining is cut short as Moraine puts him back in his box. She explains to him that the Trollocs and Fades are now travelling through the ways. How are they doing this? I don't know, given that you have to channel to get in and out of the ways and neither Trollocs nor Fades can channel. This is a mystery. Now, we did get a glimpse of Padden Fane in the ways, who also in the books can't channel, but maybe he can in this now because, there has to be some excuse because they went with that stupid decision to make entering and exit the ways require channeling. Which, by the way, the ways are used by Ogier, who can't channel, so God only knows how they managed to do it previously. I guess they just have to wait around for an Aes Sedai. I seriously wonder if that stupid decision is going to come back and bite them in the arse later on in the series. There's also some mention of Tarwin's Gap, which is this area near the Blight where the armies of Saldea routinely in history, have engaged Trolloc armies to stop them. Right. So next we see Moraine talking to another channeler. I can't remember who this character is, and they're talking about Min and Agelmar because Moraine wants to go see Min. This other character is saying, like, yeah, Agelmar, basically it's like Agelmar doesn't want to. And once again, we get a little bit of wokery just chucked in there. It's like, well, why would he go talk to Min when he already knows all the answers? So there's those arrogant know-it-all men again. And then Moraine drops a nice little bomb. She asks this other character to send a message to the White Tower, and she basically wants her to sick the Red Aja on Mat. So, if Mat is the Dragon Reborn, it seems that it's Moraine's intention to actually gentle him. One of the things that Moraine in the book is absolutely paranoid about keeping the dragon away from the Red Aja because she's terrified that this will happen. It should be understood that, according to the prophecies, that without the dragon, they're going to lose. So, if Mat is the dragon, this is suicide. But anyway, that's okay because Moraine's not that bright anymore. After all, she can only be as smart as the writers, and, well, yeah, she's a bit of a dullard. Next, our heroes are wandering through the streets of Valdara, and Egwene is telling Rand that none of what the wind said is true, though as far as I can tell, virtually everything it says is true. But anyway, Padden Fane, no less, comes wandering, whistling, like giggling by, and for some reason only Perrin notices. But anyway, they kind of ignore the fact that he thought he saw him. They move into some kind of a tavern, and we are introduced to Min, who, unlike in the books, who the main character made an absolute point of never wearing girly clothes. She was kind of a bit of a tomboy. She always wore boys' clothes and all that. But in this, she's just wearing standard women's clothes. So I'm guessing, I actually have a feeling they're going to make Min a very small character because she's just the way that she was handled in the episode. I have a doubt that they're going to actually make her a major character in the series. So Moraine approaches Min and basically threatens her. Again, this is interesting, not quite Moraine from the books, but she basically threatens her that she either fesses up with the info that she wants or she's going to expose her secret. And the secret, of course, is that Min can glimpse the pattern. She can see images around people, auras around people, that when she knows what they mean, it will tell her something about what's in the future of this person. Oh, Min is also apparently Saldean now, and a lot older than she is in the books. In the books, they meet her in Baerlon, which is in Andor, so they've just moved her somewhere else in the world. Not a major big deal. It doesn't actually really matter, I suppose, for the TV series where they meet her, so this is fine. She's a lot older, though, so I kind of wonder if they're going to do a particular relationship that was in the books. Basically, herself and Rand get together later on, but she's actually quite a bit older than Rand at this point. So maybe they will, I don't know, but as I said, there's a lot of things about how they're portraying Min that I just have a feeling she's not going to feature very much. So Min sees various visions about her character. She foresees Perrin with his golden eyes and blood running down his chin, so this is Perrin and the whole Wolf Brother thing being predicted, but I think we already kind of know this. So no real surprise there. She sees Rand with a baby. I actually have no idea what that is, I have to say. So maybe I'm forgetting something major from the books, but that makes no sense to me at all. And to the two women, so Egwene and Nynaeve, she sees a white flame and golden rings. So obviously they're going to be Aes Sedai. Min goes on to say that she can see these sparks around them all with darkness trying to consume the sparks. It's not actually what we see on screen, but okay. And she also says that they're all linked, and this is apparently very rare. So I kind of have a little bit of concern that they're still playing with the idea of them all being the dragon, which is an idiot notion mentioned in the 6th episode. Um, and she's also saying that they're very important to the pattern because the visions are very clear, which may be a further hint that they're all the dragon. That's how important they are. Or it could just be a lazy, shitty writing way of making us think that that's what's going on so that they can subvert our expectations. If ever there was a moron phrase that's in popular use at the moment, subvert our expectations has got to be that phrase. What it actually means is that the writers are just going to completely, deliberately mislead you for no particular reason because that's not what's actually in the story. She then also mentions to Moraine that she sees for Moraine the Amyrlin seat in full regalia and she's going to be her downfall. Now, of course, what she didn't say was that she saw Siuan Sanche. She just said she saw the Amyrlin seat. So we can, again, if they follow anything like the books, we can assume this is a different Amyrlin seat at some point in the future, which is probably going to be Elida. But Moraine reacts to this as though she had said Siuan Sanche. You would think that someone who's actually an Aes Sedai, who are gifted in the art of saying true things that aren't what you think you hear, you would think that Moraine might actually realize and think, oh shit, is Siuan going to be deposed? Because she's in love with Siuan. They're in love with each other. They would never betray each other like that. So the logical assumption would be it's a different Amyrlin. So maybe she should send word to Siuan, hey, watch out, because somebody could be after you. But no, because Moraine is, like the writers, a fucking moron in this series. We then cut to an incredibly stupid conversation being had between Moraine and the Emmons Fielders. And Moraine basically says to them that she was trying to find out who the Dragon Reborn was because she didn't want to bring whoever wasn't the Dragon Reborn, because apparently they're going to definitely die if they go and they're not the Dragon Reborn. Why? Why will they definitely die? Who knows? They're going to get ground to dust between two terrible forces. But we were supposed to assume for some reason that Moraine and Lan aren't going to die. At least she doesn't seem to be talking like they're going to. So why is it that Moraine and Lan would be immune to this grinding down? But these the rest of the Emmons Fielders, including Nynaeve, if she isn't the dragon, who's a massively powerful channeler, she'll get ground to dust. Moraine won't, but she will. Why? Who knows? It's terrible writing. Yay, it's bullshit. It's just supposed to create false drama with a piss poor explanation. Moraine reveals as well that she didn't find out who the dragon is, and in the next day she's going to bring all of them to the eye of the world, knowing that 3 of them will die. And of course, Perrin, maybe Perrin is, a little bit brighter than Moraine. He just goes, how do you know for sure? He points out multiple pertinent facts, like, for example, that Mat might be the dragon, and if he's the dragon, well, maybe they'll all survive because, there won't be this great reckoning. And he's also saying that maybe she's wrong. And then Moraine says something troublingly stupid. What a shock. She says, it's easy to use doubt as a crutch, but doubt is the first step towards surrender to the dark. Oh my God. Oh my God. So this is literally the religious fanatics line. Doubt is bad, doubt is evil. When in fact it's usually the other way around. It's the people who are the most certain who are the most dangerous. And Moraine is coming across as a bit of a moronic, dangerous zealot right now. Doubt is evil. Oh my God. It's so stupid. But of course, again, the show is written by woke people who are convinced they know what is the best for everything. They're convinced they're morally superior to everybody else. They know what is right. So they have no reason to doubt. And this is coming out of Moraine's mouth now. Doubt? No, don't you dare doubt. Nynaeve pipes up to basically say that, well, you've made your decision, but we haven't made ours. And again, she seems to be almost close to tears here, which is not very Nynaeve. If the book Nynaeve would actually be probably tugging on her braid and telling Moraine what she thought of her in no uncertain terms and to stop being so bloody arrogant. But anyway, then Moraine again has stupid lines because, Nynaeve says, I don't think you can force us all to go. And Moraine is like, you can't basically run and hide from the weaving of the pattern. So I don't know if is it Moraine's position that everything that's going to happen, like that it's a completely determined scenario, so that everything's going to happen is going to happen. In which case, she might as well just sit back and relax, because what's going to happen is going to happen. So this is a little bit of a problem, and this is actually a problem that existed a little bit in the books. It wasn't entirely clear if everything that happened is basically preordained, because it's happened before and will happen again. It's actually quite a depressing idea that this will just go on forever. It's never entirely clear in the books, and you'd almost be on the side of the Dark One who wants to stop this wheel of endless repetition from turning. But anyway, that's a segue. We'll ignore that. But it's seeming that Moraine is starting to think that what's going to happen is going to happen. So again, she doesn't even really need to make, doesn't matter what choice she makes. She's of the opinion that it's already a foregone conclusion what's going to occur. She doesn't need to convince them of anything, because if they're going to go, they're going to go. So, this is they should really lay off this a little bit, I think. If you want to have compelling stories and interesting character choices, you kind of need to step away from the predetermined outcome idea.
So we have a bit more dialogue where Perrin and Nynaeve pipe up with the very sensible points, and even Rand joins in that maybe Moraine could actually be wrong. She may be telling the truth as she understands it, but she could be mistaken. She could just have bad information. But Egwene, being the brave, selfless hero she is, she basically says if there's any chance at all that she's right, they all have to go anyway, and then more or less tells Nynaeve that if she wasn't being so proud and stubborn, that she'd definitely go as well. And after this, we start delving into some truly stupid dialogue. So here we get a little exchange between Matt and Egwene, or Rand and Egwene, about Matt, and she keeps pointing out that he left us. So this is the, yeah, he didn't want to come on a suicide mission. God love him. But anyway, and Rand is getting pissed off because he's kind of sticking up for his friend, saying you never knew him. You didn't realize, he didn't have it easy. He's not actually the bad guy that you think he is. But she just keeps pointing out he left us. So that's that. And then Rand pipes up by saying, well, you're the expert on that. Okay, this is it's a little bit whiny out of Rand here. It's like, well, you left me. So he's a bit sulky here. It's a bit, but it's, he's pointing out the fact that she left him. Because it's a little bit weird. They seem to all be lovey-dovey again, but she basically chose career over love in his case. So he's obviously still smarting a little bit about that, but doesn't have the guts to just outright have nothing to do with her. No, he sort of wants her, but he's anyway. This is Rand's big dilemma at the moment. But now we get into oh boy, the stupid comes hard and fast. Egwene is like, well, what does that mean? And Rand is like, you're the only one who ever really left me. And then Perrin out of the blue just pipes up, don't talk to her like that. And he gets up and he basically squares up to Rand, because he's not having this. He's just not having it. And they're sort of squaring off against each other. It's a little bit silly. And this is when Nynaeve comes out with her. She opens up her feminist manual to page, 100 and stupid, and comes out with a line so dopey, clunky, unfitting, and purely inserted for Rafe Judkins to get his stupid politics into the show. She comes out with this rouser. I'm so tired of you two fighting over her like she's something you can win. Oh God, it's so fucking stupid. First of all, what fighting have they been doing over her? This is the first we've seen of it. Like, literally, this is the first we've seen of it. They have not been fighting over her as far as anybody has seen hitherto. And just, again, it's just this idea, you're objectifying her as though she's a prize to be, whoa, Jesus Christ. I was half expecting an Anita Sarkeesian cameo here so she could lecture us all on objectification. This is a stupid line that doesn't belong in the show. It's there strictly for political reasons. It sounds stupid. It is stupid. And the whole thing about having Perrin is apparently into Egwene, and this whole thing where he didn't love his wife, that's what the issue was with his wife. He was actually digging at Egwene all along. So again, here we have the assassination of Perrin. So we had Matt earlier in the show. Now it's Perrin's turn to be completely assassinated. So Rand just starts smirking and going about how he couldn't. It's been there in front of him all the time and he never saw it. It wasn't really that obvious. But anyway, again, if you're a book reader as well, it won't have been obvious because it's so completely stupid and has no place in the story. But again, they want to turn it into some young adult fiction or something. I don't know. So we have to have our heroine, our brave heroine Egwene, and of course all the guys are fighting over her. It's just fucking pathetic. But anyway, this is to be expected at this point. So Rand points out that the day Perrin proposed to his wife was the day that he got together with Egwene. Oh my God! Just think about what that says about Perrin. Oh Jesus, he is a terrible person. Okay, so Matt's a terrible person. Perrin's a terrible person. Rand's being quite petulant at all of this, and it's just poor Egwene and Nynaeve are just having to stand there and just facepalm at this terrible maleness mailing on there in front of them. I think we even see a Nynaeve braid tug here, although again, unlike Nynaeve, she's doing it when she's all sad because she said something that's upset some people rather than being angry, which is when she ordinarily would do it in the books. But here again, this is their shit writers, and instead of being able to actually create some drama out of the fact that you have 4 young people being given an impossible choice, where 3 of them may face certain death the next day, where's the drama being sourced? In petty little relationship squabbles between them. Oh Jesus Christ, these people are terrible. And now, seeing as it's been about 2 minutes since we had some emotion-laden dialogue about our feelings, we have such a conversation between Moiraine and Lan, where Moiraine says, I feel like I've taken everything from you and more. I'm sorry, Moiraine, you've taken everything and more. Again, as they say, she can only be as bright as the writers, and that's a shit show. Anyway, Lan goes on to point out, like, you've taken nothing from me, just like the warder in the episode 5. Lan was basically a worthless piece of shit until Moiraine came along and lifted him out of it, gave him purpose, because what is this like? Why does every male character have to be some kind of worthless, purposeless piece of shit until some glowing angelic woman comes into his life and gives him something to do? In the books, Lan is wedded to his war with the Shadow, is how he would put it. His kingdom of Malkier has been destroyed, essentially. There are still some Malkieri left, and his aim is to protect what's left of Malkier at any cost, and what he can't protect he's going to avenge. So he's full on hardcore, wants to destroy the Shadow at every opportunity as hard as he can. And one of the reasons that he becomes Moraine's warder is that she demonstrates to him that she is just as invested in her fight against the Shadow. So she's worthy of his fight. That's the way he sees it. Like she's as determined as he is to see the Shadow defeated. So that that's great in the books. You have 2 powerful characters coming together with a shared motivation. It's fantastic. And also, there's no, which thank God they're doing in the show as well. There's nothing about relationship or sex or anything between Moiraine and Lan, which is great because there's no reason for there to be. They're just 2 determined people who are joined together for other reasons. It's great. So it's actually there's an interesting relationship between Moiraine and Lan in the books. But here we have all that basically destroyed. Lan was just a worthless bum until Moiraine found him. Lan actually says that before Moiraine he had nothing to live for, nothing to die for. In the very next line of dialogue, Moiraine says, aren't there some goodbyes you need to make in this city before we go? The writers are hacks. I hate to keep pointing it out, but Jesus Christ. So Lan, he does have some goodbyes. It's almost as though there was people besides Moiraine that he actually was invested in prior to knowing Moiraine. That's crazy. So Lan goes off to visit with friends and family, presumably. I'm not sure who these people are exactly. And he's being stalked by Nynaeve. Yeah, and I mean full-on stalked. But of course, despite his inattention at every other point in the story, right now he knows she's there somehow. Anyway, he goes off to do his visitation, and Nynaeve is doing the whole looking in through the window at this lovely family scene. And here we have Lan Family Man. Again, this is not the Lan from the books. I don't know who it is, but it's not him. And then we discover that Lan has discovered how to travel, or to teleport, because Nynaeve turns around and he's instantly behind her. I mean, it is instantaneous. So he literally teleports behind. Jesus Christ. I mean, if they had just given a couple of seconds of her wondering where he was gone or something, fine, but it's so instantaneous. And he just basically says boo in the form of hello. He proceeds to invite Nynaeve to come on in and join the festivities. Now, I just kind of wonder, I'd love for Judkins to give his opinion on how this dynamic would have worked if we reversed the sexes here. So if Nynaeve was going out to visit people and a guy was literally stalking her, I have a feeling they wouldn't kind of find it so cute then. But anyway, it's fine. So she comes on in and joins the fun. And it's a lovely little moment of just bonding and it's all lovely. So after the festivities, they walk home. They walk back to their rooms together, and we have an awkward "feel like smashing" moment. But Lan just kind of goes, "Right, I'm off to bed. Good night," and heads off to tuck himself in. When he's half undressed, Nynaeve lets herself into his room. Again, I would love to know what the woke would think about this if the genders were reversed. So the guy just comes barging into a room where she's half naked. And it's like, do you want me to leave? Okay. Anyway, so long story short, they smash. Of course they do. Because this is not the Wheel of Time. This is something where sex is absolutely casual. It's just like it is today. It's everybody's shagging everybody. Yay! It's great, which is fine, but it's simply not the world of the Wheel of Time. And this is not Lan, and it's not Nynaeve. So I don't really know what story we're witnessing here, but it isn't the Wheel of Time. In the meanwhile, Rand is out demonstrating his utter lack of archery skill. I mean, my God, is he bad? He's about 4 feet away from the target. With his little wimpy bow, and he's not really scoring many hits there. And then Egwene comes along, pouty and demanding an apology, even though when he says, "You're the only person who ever left me," which is the thing that she wants the apology for, it may have actually been true, but that's not the point. He said hurty things, so he has to apologize. Those are the rules. So Rand dutifully does apologize. But apparently it's not about that. It's what she's really pissed off about is how dare he think that she wouldn't fight for Matt. I don't know, all the kind of he left us, might suggest it. But again, the authors can't follow a train of thought for more than 2 seconds. So this is forgotten. Even though her basically saying, like, fuck him, he abandoned us. Yeah, she's gone back in it now. Of course she would fight and die for him. Okay. So anyway, Rand reveals that he was just scared and there's tears running down his face because men need to show their emotions more. Isn't that right, Rafe? Anyway, he's just being a whiny baby again. Anyway, he basically, Egwene says, like, Moraine's wrong, we're all coming back. How she knows this, I don't know, but she's just full of determination. And Rand is basically saying that she needs to go to Tar Valon. And she goes, not without you. Because again, she's, as she points out herself, she made that mistake once. So, I don't know how it could be so confident she's not going to make that mistake again. But anyway, he basically says, I'll come with you and be your warder. It's a lovely, touching moment. And she basically says, I will always stand by you. You know that. Even though in very recent memory, he has objective evidence that she won't always stand by him. But remember, things that happen don't matter. It's only what people say in a particular moment for emotional reasons. If it gets an emotional buzz out of people, that's all that's important. It doesn't matter if it's consistent with the facts or what actually happened, or the people have memories that go back more than a half a second. Totally irrelevant. It's all for that emotional little payoff that hasn't really been earned. Okay. There is something slightly ironic as well about her saying, like, I'll stick by you no matter what happens, no matter what comes. She's going to be with Rand. And of course, if they follow anything even near to the books, that's all bullshit too. She's not going to stand by him and won't be with him when things turn out the way they turn out. We jump back to Nynaeve about to embark on the walk of shame. But hyper alert Lan wakes up at last to notice that she's leaving. And they have a little conversation, which is mostly there so that Nynaeve can learn that he's not just any old farmer's son or something. He's a prince of Malkier. And he describes how Malkier fell to the blight in a single night. Wow, that was moving fast that night. But anyway, it turns out that the kindly old man that she had met earlier was an armsman of his father's who had spirited him away to Faldara on the night that Malkier fell. And then Nynaeve says something kind of stupid. It's almost as though she hasn't witnessed herself the events she personally witnessed this very night. So she says now she understands why he bonded himself to Moraine. And that's because he was a king without a kingdom, a boy without a family, that he basically had nowhere to belong and now he belongs. Yeah, did she just not witness him in a family-like setting with said armsman and the family and they all being together as a group? He looked kind of like he had somewhere to belong if he wanted to, but, maybe he had other reasons. But anyway, This is again just stupid emotional language being used to try to work up some emotions in the audience. It doesn't follow, it doesn't make any sense. There's no real clear indication that this is what's going on. Except, of course, for Lan's own speech earlier, which is not Lan from the book, where he was a piece of shit who didn't have any reason to live or die until Moraine came along. So again, it's not quite that now he belonged somewhere. She gave him a mission, basically. That's the explanation. So Nynaeve doesn't really know why he bonded himself to Moraine. She's just making assumptions here. And her point ultimately being that he belongs to Moraine, and that's the thing that she's all jealous about. And he pipes up saying, no, I don't, she doesn't own me. And she's like, doesn't she? And here we actually have, believe it or not, brace yourself, ladies and gentlemen, strap in. We have an actual decent line of dialogue from Lan where he says, no more than you belong to those, the young people from Emmons Field, basically. So that's good. That's actually, he's giving her, and it's an insight into her character that he's aware of, that she's really protective of them and that she will do anything to keep them safe. And this is he's giving her an example that she can actually identify with to explain what his relationship with Moraine is. Look at that, a decent line of dialogue. It can happen, stop the clock and all that. And then we at last come to the major point of the episode, which is that Rand is the Dragon Reborn, and he's basically having a lot of memories, including a flashback to what would have been in the first episode, where he's Lan is delirious in the woods and basically gives him the hint that he's not his father. And then we have a basically retconning of a load of events in the show to but it was really Rand at the time. The showrunners didn't show you any of this because they wanted to have their false bullshit idea about who's the dragon gonna be. But anyway, so we see all this, and then they do one of these tropes in television and film that I loathe so much I almost can't express it, which is this idea that people who are shit at things, i.e. Rand being shit at archery earlier, now he's determined, though his determination makes him a better shot. Yes, I know. This is just a means for them to convey to you the change of mind of the character. I just find it's just one of those pet hates of mine. It's just so annoying. But anyway, we've now discovered that Rand is the Dragon Reborn, which also happens to be one of the things that the all lie telling wind told him as well. So Mashin Shin seems to be dealing a whole lot of truth. So Rand goes off to meet Min, and I think he basically wants her to confirm his newfound knowledge that he's the Dragon Reborn. Though, you kind of think he would have known it before now, because granted, we, the audience, are only seeing these events for the first time, but Rand isn't seeing them for the first time. Anyway, he just basically says to Min, tell me I'm not the Dragon Reborn. She goes, okay, you're not the Dragon Reborn. I think that, I don't know if that's supposed to be funny. And then, of course, because we haven't had a feminist line in the last kind of minute and a half, she just pipes up with something, you're just another guy, another bear who wants something from me. So they sit down and they have a little tete-a-tete. And so Rand is basically asking me, what do you see when you look at me? And then she starts talking about the first vision she ever saw, which was when she was a kid in Tarvalon. It's like, what? She's from Tarvalon now? Okay, we won't worry about it. And basically she saw Tam in the snow on Dragon Mountain, little baby Rand. And as I say, Tam is the only character so far, I think, who's actually somewhat like his book self. He's a decent guy. And she saw the Heron Mark blade that Rand is currently sporting, and she just tells him that he is, gives him enough information that essentially shows he's the dragon. And then there's a stupid line about how that baby was something impossible. Impossible? Impossible? How? What? Anyway, that sort of little artistic line aside, he asks her, do you see the eye of the world? And she says, I wish I didn't. Do I come back? And she doesn't say anything, which he assumes means he doesn't. But now, basically, what happens at the end of the episode is that for once we see Rand actually behaving a little bit like Rand. So he's being self-sacrificing, and he thinks, I'm the dragon. So he goes to Moraine and says, it's me. And they take off, basically. So we see at the end of the episode, Moraine and Rand about to enter the Blight, which looks a bit shit, but again, for budgetary reasons, we'll give them a pass on that. And the others are kind of like, oh my god, they've run off, what's going on? So that's basically where it's left. So that was episode 7, and the train wreck continues hard and fast. It's not really... It just isn't anything like the story in the books at this point. They've deviated already so wildly from it. And I wouldn't mind even that they deviate in events. But in this particular episode, we've had both Perrin and Matt's characters completely assassinated, which is not, this isn't great. These are two of the main characters. Whether they'll be main characters in the TV show or not, I suppose that remains to be seen. But whatever we're watching, it's not the Wheel of Time. And by the way, if you watch the Wheel of Time series and you like it, that's fine. It's fine. Good, more power to you. It doesn't bother me at all if people enjoy media that I don't. What I do find puzzling, though, is people who are fans of the books who are saying that they think this is a great adaptation. It's not an adaptation of the books. The side of place names and a couple of similar events, it's got nothing to do with the books. The story is different, the world is different, the characters are different. The events are happening in a completely wildly disordered way. It's just, I don't know, it just isn't the Wheel of Time. So if you like it, fine, no problem, and have at it, and I hope you continue to enjoy it. It'll be interesting to see what the last episode has of the series. So we might get some action in the last episode to close out the season. And of course, that's all that people really seem to need, because the fourth episode got enormous praise, and I'm not sure why. I think it was all the fireworks was the reason. So that's basically all you need to please most audiences these days. Is what we need to see is Rand doing lots of channeling, and maybe the rest of them doing lots of channeling too, and that'll be it. It'll be fine. So yeah, I don't have much hope for the final episode. I don't think it's going to be very good. I do think that it does look like they're just going to settle on the idea that Rand is the dragon, so all that other bullshit that they injected and that stupid little mystery of who's the dragon, pointless invented drama, because the writers are, as previously mentioned, fucking hacks who can't actually make drama out of the story that was handed to them with all the drama in it. It was very obvious where the drama should come from. Nope, they're going to invent some new drama, a big mystery, and of course they wanted to spend most of their time in Tar Valon so they could basically focus on the women and on the whole Aes Sedai thing and their little politics, their moronic little attempts at politics. So Game of Thrones it ain't. People make that comparison. I'm not sure why. It'd be a bit like, you pick any two television series that happen to be in a similar genre and you just compare them because one was really popular. I don't know. It's a bit stupid. They're nothing alike. The stories are nothing alike. The worlds are nothing alike. I think they're trying to be Game of Thrones-ish. They've thrown in a little bit of utterly pointless nudity. Not sure why. It just doesn't really belong in this series. It's edgy and mature, just like Game of Thrones. It really is. It's like Game of Thrones, honest. They put in swearing as well. Doesn't belong in this series, but hey, it's edgy, like Game of Thrones. They even had the dragon's fang formed out of sheep carcasses. Very Game of Thrones. Look at how Game of Thrones we are. This is just pathetic. They need to stop trying to be Game of Thrones, do their own thing. Okay, I will leave it there. Thank God there's only one more episode, and I may review that later. So everyone have a good one, and let's hope that they manage to somehow redeem themselves a little in the final episode. Thank you and goodbye.